I've heard from a lot of parents and a lot of young people uh, that are in recovery is that the 12 steps is a challenge for them because they haven't developed a spiritual life yet.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't have a jumping off place from. And when you think about a young person that starts using at 13, or 15, and then doesn't try to get into recovery until 20, so you think about the brain, and you think about concrete thinking versus abstract thinking, right? I think the 12 steps is a very abstract thought process. And I think that's why a lot of young people who are concrete thinkers sometimes can't get that spiritual component of it. It's absolutely saved my life. I would not be here without my Al-Anon family group. It is and was, but there's just other people that can't get it. So we've got to offer them some other hope, some other way. The other big piece for me was judging each situation based on what is happening now, rather than bringing all that baggage along with me. Well, the last time he asked me to do this, blah, 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 blah. So trying to really stay in the present moment with, okay, how do I want to handle this right now based upon what I know, what I need, what he needs, what the rest of the family needs. And, I didn't do that perfectly. But, it became so much easier to make the boundaries about what I needed rather than trying to control his use. All my boundaries previously were around trying to control his use. They were about what I needed to feel safe in the relationship. He respected every single one of them. It was like, I can't believe this. Because the focus was on what I needed, not on trying to control his use. And I think that was the biggest light bulb for me that helped me figure out how to support him. And also, it improved our relationship tremendously. If I wouldn't have done that, I don't think we would have had the relationship that we did before he died. And I'm so grateful for the fact that we had a good relation. There wasn't a lot of that regret and guilt. I mean, all parents have regret and guilt when their child dies, but I deal with a lot of parents who have, cut it off completely from their children, or, and when their child dies or their loved one dies, it's just a huge thing to deal with. It's still huge for me, and it's been 8 years, So anyway, thank you for bringing that up. I'm just so grateful for my practice of it's just mindfulness meditation. And if I can get parents doing that, so, meditation builds more neural pathways to the prefrontal cortex where they can reason rather than react. If I can get them to just start reasoning rather than reacting to everything, everybody's life is better. I mean, it helps everywhere. We hear a lot about, how people that have substance use disorder, how their brain is so, out of balance too, because they've functioned out of the limbic brain and the prefrontal rather than the prefrontal cortex. And there's all kinds of research on, how important meditation is for anybody that's in recovery. And I always tell my caregivers that their limbic brain has been way overstimulated by trying to live with the illness, watch somebody else. I mean, I was always in fight, flight, or freeze. I was either fighting Aaron or fighting the system for him, or freezing up because I was so scared I didn't know what I was doing, or running away. I mean, those were my 3 modems of operandi for a long, long time. When we started taking care of ourselves, that's when Aaron started focusing on that's when he made that last valiant attempt at recovery. And I just think that this is something that I think some people, some caregivers have a hard time believing because they see, so many times they see people with a substance use disorder because the behavior looks so self-serving and so selfish. But I think that people with substance use disorders have just as big, if not bigger, codependency issues than the codependent in the relationship, because I saw my son focus on him taking care of me, taking care of him. Do you understand what I'm saying? And when I stopped taking care of him, he didn't have to focus on me taking care of him anymore, and he could focus on himself. And I think if I can get people to parents to understand, there, anybody, caregivers to understand, and that's, so, you know, it gives him the dignity that I believe he's capable of taking care of himself, and that I need to take care of myself. So thank you for bringing that up.